Welcome to the Best You podcast, where we explore the journey of inner peace, harmony, and joy that comes from living authentically. Every week, we will dive into transformative conversations that describe both the way you can create behavioral change for yourself and how to create the conditions that promote peace, harmony, and joy around you. Whether you're seeking balance, deeper relationships, or a spark of inspiration, you're in the right place. Welcome back to the Best You. Today, Scott and I are going to talk about the first of a four-part series that we're calling The Heart of the Hero. We have been very attuned to the amount of change and distress that's going on in the world, an increasing sense of despair and hopelessness and anxiety and fear. And so we felt that this would be a good time to really poke at this a little bit and see what's underneath the hood and explore together what might be possible when we are in times of crisis. And whether it feels like you have been in crisis or we have been in crisis for 4 months, 4 years, 4 decades, or 4 centuries, I feel like we are all on the same page now that we are coming from crisis and into crisis and through crisis all together. I hope at least on that point, we are all united. But times of crisis are also great opportunity. And neither Scott nor I say that as just a trite saying, but as something that we truly believe. He and I have both lived this and learned this the hard way. But the framework that we would like to use for the Heart of the Hero series is that developed by Joseph Campbell, who studied all the tales and stories, fables and legends across humanity, humanity's time, across time and humanity, and across culture. And he asked the question, what are all these stories trying to tell us? And he found that there was a prevailing theme, which it was so prevalent, he called it the monomyth. And the title of it is The Hero's Journey. And so it is this framework that we feel can be of so much value to us in guiding us in this time of what feels like unprecedented crisis. There's a crisis in climate, a crisis in healthcare, a crisis in financial, a meaning crisis. You know, pick your topic. We're in a crisis. And the wisdom of Joseph Campbell's framework is here to guide us. I feel that this framework is more important now than ever, not only for us individually, but for us as a collective, because even though we're all going through this on a personal level, we are also all in this together. So in this 4-part series, we're going to unpack the hero's journey and discuss what it has meant for Scott and I, and some of the ways that we can all move into greater resonance with our individual and collective paths towards self-transcendence. Because the idea is that if you're facing a great challenge, then there's opportunity for great growth and wisdom. And so the hero's journey is all about accessing that growth and wisdom. And we would like to talk about how to do that. And just a reminder, this the Foundation for Family and Community Healing has a course on this called Discover Your Inner Wealth and the Shiro's Journey. And I like to refer to the hero's journey as the Shiro's journey, like S/H, because some people feel that the words don't include the feminine. It's for everybody, regardless of your gender. And I hope that you'll find that this is valuable for you to the degree that you are feeling challenged now. So I think maybe I would like to just start with Scott and I sharing some personal examples of when we feel like we have hit rock bottom. And I will start with my own little story, because my rock bottom moments have also been the most transformational moments. And the first one that happened to me was that I had spent my whole career up until the age of, let's see, 36, pursuing a certain life and lifestyle that I had imagined would make me happy. And when I got everything I ever dreamed of, and the last piece being tenure at a research university, instead of feeling happy, I just realized that I had made a huge mistake, that I had spent 36 years chasing somebody else's dream. And I went into a rock bottom moment. Actually, it was much longer than a moment, as I realized that my beliefs about myself and the world gave me the actual opposite of what I'd hoped for. So this was very illuminating. It made me change my life path. I eventually moved into this kind of work. And I actually wish that it had happened sooner, but I also trust that everything happened exactly as it was meant to. And during that process, I discovered the story of the hero's journey, or the Shiro's journey, and was amazed at how closely it replicated my life, and or that part of my life. And so ever since then, I have been talking about this, especially for people who come to rock bottom moments, and share them with me. And I am just like, congratulations. You're cracking open your life and your beliefs into something more spacious and expansive, and a bigger view of yourself and the world. So Scott, what's your story?
Well, Sana, first off, thanks for kicking this important topic off and sharing that personal story, which I'm sure a lot of people would say that is a crisis. That's crazy. You're working 36 years or living 36 years, you've achieved tenure, and that's such a high respected, such a prestigious, such a you know rewarding position. Why would you give it up? It's almost like you're creating your own crisis, right? And I think that's something that people should take to heart. That crisis is actually, I believe, a state of mind. And what's interesting, people can look around the world and talk about all the crises, but guess what? Wherever there you see a crisis, there are probably a lot of people in the middle of those crises that are actually happy with the way things are going. And so you should just know that crisis is, to one person, I think may be a really great thing to another. And the other thing is, I think crisis in a person actually, if you take the time to kind of think about it, kind of holistically or big picture, I think oftentimes you can actually realize that crisis is actually a good thing, hidden in something that looks bad. Because I think so much in life, if you want to have your greatness, you've got to have moments of failure, of bad things happening, so that you can learn, so that you can grow, so you can appreciate. And life is not supposed to be a perfectly straight line. Everything happens whatever you think. Yet it goes exactly as planned. No, life is I truly believe, I think Sana does too, about learning about yourself, about growing, about experience, about just having a satisfying life, and ultimately it's about doing with other people, and having joyful experiences. So getting back to crisis and the Shiro's journey, I will tell you probably my biggest crisis that I've had to life is when I was age 20, and I was in college, and I was a sophomore at Georgia Tech. I'll never forget. I was in the lunchroom one day with some of my friends, just enjoying lunch, just cutting up, and just having a good old time. And I got a call on the intercom, and it said, "Scott Frank, please call this number as soon as possible."
Wow.
And I thought that was odd. I didn't. I was thinking. I remember. I don't even remember that they would ever use that intercom. I don't remember that type of thing. But it was just intercom, and so back in that day, people should appreciate. There were no cell phones back when I was in college, and so I wrote down the phone number, and I walked to the closest payphone, and I dialed the number, And the person who answered, it was a Georgia Tech representative, said, something important has happened. You need to call this phone number. So I got another quarter and I put it in a payphone and I called this number. And this number was to a neighbor of ours, a good friend of our family's. And I will never forget the statement she made. And she didn't beat around the bush. She said, something terrible has happened. Your father has been killed in a car accident. And this is no joke. I literally dropped the phone, and I literally just kind of just, I remember just kind of just like, so I picked up the phone, like, what are you talking about? And, she went on to explain, bad car accident. Your father has passed away. You need to come home immediately. And, long story short, my father had been killed in a car accident. I was the oldest of three children. My parents were divorced, and it was a um, it was a very hard time for me. I had to think about, where do I go from here? And I will just say this: it is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I think about my dad every day, still to this day, and it's been many years ago. Um, I truly believe that we all have our time on this planet, and I had to come to grips with that. My dad's time had come, but I also believe that he's with me, and I live in his honor. And so I think some people might have taken it as a moment to, do a bunch of drugs and alcohol and quit school and who knows what else. For whatever reason, I took it as an opportunity to to make my father proud, to pay attention to clues that I felt like he was giving me, and I truly believe that so much, not so much, all of the great things that have happened to me in my life are because he's watched over me and he's helped me to be, the man that I've become. So, all I can say is this. Everybody has bad things that happen to them, and I think it comes down to how do we and choose to interpret it and respond.
Mm, so true. So true. And I just feel Scott and I are so fortunate because we um, were able to find our path to resilience somehow on our own by hook or by crook. And we're here to help you all if you are facing crisis now or for any crisis that may come up in your future to find that path forward. And what I also have understood after decades of being an educator and doing professional development work is that it's easy to just say, do this, but it's another matter to actually put that into action. So uh, we're going to try to provide as many specific details as we can in the course of a podcast, but we do encourage you to go to the course because the course does walk you step by step through some parts of this. So like to thanks for sharing that story, Scott, and I didn't know that about you. And you really do have such a strength of character that I admire so much and so much clarity. And I can see that how that has been a defining moment. And I also love what you said about crisis, that good things are hidden in bad and what feel like bad events. And I guess I would say that the opposite can be true, that bad things are hidden within what seem like good things, which is what happened to me. But it was actually a good thing, as it turns out. So both and. So I'd like to talk about the overall hero's journey framework, and we will spend the next 3 episodes going into it in more detail. But the idea is that if you think about the most beloved epic tales and stories of our time, like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, or my favorite, The Wizard of Oz, you will notice that they have a similar storyline and pattern, and this is called the hero's journey. And so the basic idea is that the hero or the shiro is at home in their life, and they get called to embark upon an adventure greater than themselves. And they may resist it or not, but in any case, they set off on an adventure greater than themselves. And initially, it seems like they're there to prevail over some bad guy or bad gal. Think the Wicked Witch or Darth Vader. But the Shiro eventually finds that they are stuck and that everything that they tried is leading to failure. And so it reminds me of the scene in Star Wars where Luke, Leia, and Han are stuck in this room. There seems to be no exit, and it's full of trash. And then all of a sudden, the walls and ceilings start to compress. So it's actually a trash compactor. So just when you think it couldn't get any worse, the pressure goes up even higher. And this is what Campbell describes as the innermost cave. He describes it as, he compares it to the belly of the whale in the Jonah and the whale story. It's just a place of despair and no way out. And when this moment happens, this is where we have to face the beliefs and practices and habits that got us there, that they worked up into a point, maybe we double or triple down on them, and then we get so stuck that we actually feel like there's no place to go. At this point, our ego becomes in crisis. And by ego, I mean the framework of our identity, how we view ourselves. So like, I'm Sanna Calvert, I'm a middle-aged Asian American female, blah, 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 American. That identity then comes under threat. So we're either confronted with just spiraling downwards and failing, or we discover that it's not really a journey to defeat something outside of us. It really is an internal journey, that the journey is internal. And in each of these stories, the Shiro had to go through some sort of transformational process from the inside out. It might include training and mentoring and support and help. But they have to become bigger than the challenge itself in order to prevail. So at some point, and I'm going to share this diagram, at some point, the Shiro, once they become bigger than themselves, they can then rise to the occasion and prevail upon the challenge and return back to their ordinary world, where they return with the gift of their journey and their challenge. And according to Campbell, the gift is the lost wisdom of their generation. So in other words, we have to go through all of this just to simply learn what probably our parents or grandparents have been trying to tell us in some form or another. But inevitably, it has to do with us finding more balance with our ego, being less rigid about who we think we are and how the world works. And we break that open through really these rock bottom moments. So that's the basic idea for the Shiro's journey. So the first part is leaving the ordinary world, and then the innermost cave, and then rising to the occasion, which is called the return phase. So we'll go through each of those phases in more detail in the upcoming podcasts. But for right now, there are some general advice for the journey that Scott and I would like to share with you. So the first is being present and mindfulness. So we've talked about this in many episodes, and Scott tells some wonderful stories about his mindfulness practice. The second is having a growth mindset and failing forward. So not viewing failure as a mistake or something bad, but using it to learn and grow and move forward. And the growth mindset of looking for learning and growth and wisdom, as opposed to just fighting what is, and believing that we don't need to change. And the third step is, or the third part is social resilience. So finding support with each other. The Shiro in these stories is never alone. They always get help. And for some of us, the Shiro's journey is simply being willing to ask for help, or knowing what we need, or not knowing what we need and just saying, I don't know what I need. Can you help me? I'm super good at that. I'm gifted at that. So I think that has gotten me through a lot of moments. So, Scott, I wonder if you want to, you've talked, we both talked in previous episode about mindfulness. Is there something you'd like to share about growth mindset, failing forward, or social resilience, asking help for others?
Sure. So appreciate you laying out the Shiro's journey, and um, I think it's something that we all could or should be living, and we are all heroes. We are all Shiros, and what I'd like to say is a couple things. One is we are all born special. We all have gifts. We all have talents. Um, we all are unique. And I truly believe, it's incumbent upon us to figure out what those are. My gifts and talents are not the same as Sana's or the same as whoever is watching this or listening to this podcast. We're all unique. We may have some similarities. We may have some that overlap, but we are all unique. And I strongly encourage you to figure out what yours are. Some you may remember from when you were a child. Some may be some things that you've noticed that you enjoy to do. But the fact is, you've got them, and then I encourage you to use them. There's so many things that we have inside us that we don't use either because they don't pay well enough, or people might not say nice things about us, or it's not cool, or whatever it is. Don't have time. I just encourage you to find them and use them. You'll be amazed how good it makes you feel. And by the way, from a peace, harmony, and joy perspective, I will say find a calm place where you can be able to get your mind, in tune with yourself. You'll be amazed how your mind will help you figure it out. But when you use what your mind figures out, and you truly are living your best life, you'll be amazed how many joyful experiences you have, especially when you're in the moment with them. The other thing I want to say about the Shiro's journey is this: life is a journey, and I think some people think of life as a series of milestones or accomplishments. Sana's tenure example, that could have been the journey to be tenured. But I think life is the journey, and it's I like to call it the joyful journey. Doesn't mean every single moment is perfect. Doesn't mean that everything that you go through is going to go exactly right. But the point is, just like if you're on a camel back in the olden days, walking your camel through villages, and there's so many stories written back in those times of just these adventures, and these people that they met, and these different experiences, and all these just amazing things that happened. And I just encourage everybody to think of their life like they're on a camel, and they're going from place to place, meeting all these really cool, interesting people, having all these different, unique experiences. Some days may feel like a little redundant because when you're on a camel ride, you're going down these paths. It may feel like the same path for a while, but I also encourage you to try to find things to make each step of the way kind of unique and special. Because if you really pay attention to what's around you, there's always something different and something exciting and something that can give you joy. And the last thing I'll simply say is, there's the physical joyful journey, but there's the mental joyful journey. And I think this Shiro's journey really is, in large part, this kind of mind experience. And so while you're having all these physical experiences, and some may be good to you, some may be bad to you. Again, I encourage you, like Sanna's saying, the bad ones probably have some of the best lessons for you, will help you grow the most. But I encourage you to let your mind thoroughly enjoy every moment of it, and to appreciate that that it really is what you make of it. And I think so many people, again, something bad happens. Oh my God, I lost my job. Oh my God, it's all over. Or I lost a ball game. It's all over. Someone broke up with me. It's all over. I mean, I just encourage you to just take the moment to appreciate that's part of the journey, and there's something you're gonna learn from it. There's something that's good gonna come from it, and And if you just think of your life as a Shiro's journey, you'll be amazed at how many wonderful experiences you have, I mean, amazing people you meet, and how your life will just unfold to just with all these pleasant surprises.
That's such wisdom, Scott, and so well said. I'm going to give one little mini example, and what you were talking about is really being present for part of that. And I'm going to give one mini example of having migraines, because what migraines have taught me is that when the migraine goes away, that feeling normal is absolutely blissful. So for me, so much of challenge, and especially physical challenge, is or having peaceful relationships is not taking the good things we have for granted, and to, just treasure them and enjoy them, as Scott said. And the other thing, I also love what you said about use your gifts, use your strengths. Oftentimes these challenges are here for us to discover our gifts, our strengths, the things that we long to do. And we'll talk about this in the next podcast. Joseph Campbell would call this follow your bliss. You maybe have heard that phrase before. And the first time I heard that phrase, I was like, what does that mean? Bliss isn't really a thing for people, is it? So that was the old in my head me that, was so concrete about everything. But how I interpret that is do what brings you joy. Do what feels energizing and fun and exciting, or things that you've always just wanted to experiment with or try out. That gives you a lot of curiosity and fun. So that is your bliss. Anything that gives you great positive energy. Oftentimes people will compliment you on it and say what a great thing you're doing. So follow your bliss and embrace the journey, because there's wonderful lessons and opportunities within, if you will allow yourself to receive them. So thanks for joining us on The Best You and the first episode of The Heart of the Hero. Hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us for our next episode. Thanks for joining us, Scott.
Thank you, everybody. Wishing you the best.
Thank you for tuning in to the Best You podcast. We hope today's conversation sparked some new ways for you to cultivate your inner peace, connect meaningfully with others, and embrace the joy of living in harmony. Remember, being the best version of yourself isn't a destination. It's a daily practice of growth, reflection, and kindness to yourself and those around you. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it for you to subscribe, share it with somebody who'd benefit, and leave a review to help us spread the message of peace and joy. Stay connected, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time on The Best You.